Good day and welcome to Westchester Talk Radio, westchestertalkradio.com. Produced by Sharc Creative, I'm John Marino, and Happy New Year. Welcome to 2021. As we were in past years and we are now, made possible by our good friends over at Entergy, the Indian Point Energy Center, supporting our communities through April of this year, 2021. Lipolis Electric, don't be left in the dark. Get Lipolis. Hightower Westchester Fiduciary Advisors, managing your wealth to a fiduciary standard. And White Plains Hospital, again, special thanks to all of our heroes at White Plains Hospital for all they've done throughout the COVID-19 pandemic. We are joined by, to kick off the new year, the publisher and executive editor of White Plains CItizeNet Reporter, WhitePlainsCitizenNetReporter.com, John Bailey. John, Happy New Year to you and yours. Welcome to 2021. How are you?
Yes, Happy New Year to you too, John. Thank you for having me, as they say in the big leagues.
Always great to have you, John. Now, as we ring out the old and usher in the new, it turns out a major problem throughout the last portion of the old, the second half of 2020, even good part of the first half of 2020, is still a problem in this first portion of 2021 now. COVID,
yes. Well, it's all new again.
All new again.
It's all new again.
Or as they say, let's do it all over again, right? Unfortunately.
Yes, deja vu all over again. COVID view all over again. But truly, I mean, when you hit 1,013 new positives, as we did on Friday, you are right up there at the spread of this epidemic to last March. That was April 9th, 2020. We had 1,001. And we had 1,113 Friday.
So what's causing this increase now? Is it all these holiday gatherings of people who did know better and decided not to maybe do better?
Well, this has been rising inexorably since October the 1st. And basically, it has been spreading faster. Like the last 7 days, it's gone up 134%.
As it has gone way up in New York City, too. Could this be the influence of this new strain found in Great Britain that apparently some say has been here for a while? We're just detecting it now, and this could be the reason for this big uptick the last 3-4 months.
Yeah, well, I don't know what it is, but people have to get sharp. They can't keep doing it. And in the next 2 weeks, it's going to be really bad, because then you're going to have all the stupid parties that they had last week, all the kids gathering on corners, spreading the disease, and hopefully that won't happen, but I'm inclined to think it will.
All right, I've got a thought that comes to mind now. This is early January, and this is the time when high schools are supposed to be allowed finally to get into their winter sports season, sports like basketball.
They can't do that,
etc.
They can't do that.
What happens with that now?
They can't do it.
I
mean, how can you literally, hockey, good example, basketball, good example.
You're playing it the right way.
I just don't see how they can allow that, because it isn't so much the kids spreading it. It's that, say, a parent gives it to their kid goes in, kid gives it to the school. I mean, and that's really what's doing it. It is the adults should know better, and the adults are spreading this disease.
I see over in New Jersey, right next door, Governor Phil Murphy has given the okay for winter sports like hockey and basketball to resume now. Let's see what happens here in New York in this first week of it supposedly being okay to open practices and training camps, etc. I'm still kind of leery about them. I'm still waiting to hear personally from some schools around the area where I work public address, and still no definitive word. I see these schools don't have schedules locked in yet for basketball and for other winter sports. So that tells me they're still not sure yet. Let's see what develops and how that develops too. And especially,
here's the thing: if you're I'm an official, and I would have officiated soccer this fall, but what I found out when I was watching a game from the stands with a mask on, it clouded up my glasses. I never would have been. Yes, it clouded them up, and in the cold weather in the fall, it would be impossible to see the sports and what's going on because of the cloudiness in the glasses.
On an ice hockey rink, for example, I'll be over by the official scorers table, and then you get clouded up anyway in normal circumstances sometimes. Basketball, I know I can socially distance at the schools where I work at. I have obviously some concerns that would have to be worked out, but the question is, what does the governor do now about this, seeing these cases spike?
Why are interscholastic sports necessary in the time of a pandemic?
Are open liquor stores necessary during this time of pandemic too?
Yeah, that's true.
Casinos...
Look, drinking is up 80%, John.
Yeah, I know.
I was reading that the other day. 80%.
But we have to find ways.
I'm having two drinks a night. I've gained 7 pounds in 7 days.
How about casinos being open through this too? You have to shut a restaurant.
Oh, they can't do that. They simply can't do that.
What's the difference with a casino being open? Tax money? More tax.
You bring up a good point. Nobody's talking about casinos, are they? But the state needs money, so I guarantee I'll find a way to keep them open. And at least you have the betting parlors, the online betting that may help the state. Not that it'll help the people doing the betting. But I mean, there are a lot of decisions. Cuomo has done all he can. It's breaking out of control now, and at this hospitalization rate of 5%, that's what Latimer said about a week ago. 5%, 4 to 5%, and you have 58 a day. Of getting hospitalized out of the 700 we're getting a day. Well, that's 50 people every day once they start getting hospitalized. And that's going to eat up that 2,500 COVID bed margin that he has like wildfire.
Are we on the verge of another lockdown, John?
I thought we are in a lockdown. I mean, I don't leave my house.
Yeah,
I don't leave my house.
It's opened up a bit. It's a lockdown of sorts, but it's opened up a bit, maybe too much. Do we face a more stringent lockdown again?
And my television studio at the library in White Plains is closed. You can't produce there, so I produce it through the miracle of Google Drive from my office. And I mean, that's really a shame. I mean, we moved over to the library supposedly to get more interest in the public in doing programs, and now we're not even producing.
Tell us about that show, by the way.
About the what?
Your TV show.
My TV show?
Yeah, tell us about it.
I do too. I do White Plains Week on Fridays and Mondays, and now it's being done from my office. And I also do the People to Be Heard program, which is on Thursdays and Saturdays. And we have had some really great stuff on there recently. And I also, have been able to get some really good interviews. Like we had Stephen Rolandi from Pace University and City University of New York, a real expert who took us through the ins and outs of the Republican challenge to the Electoral College. And so far, he has been right on the money. He is going to happen with this Republicans 11 protest, the Republican 11, I call them. So they're not going to approve the electoral vote. However, both houses have to have a majority in order to throw out the results. So basically, it's It's just ceremonial. And he pointed that out. And it's always good to have somebody who knows what they're talking about.
Is Josh Hawley running for president in 4 years? Is this why he's doing this
I think so. I think so. He also will, I predict, have his own talk show on some network daily.
While he's senator?
No.
Senator? No? Okay.
No, I'm talking about Trump.
About Donald Trump. Okay.
Yes, I'm talking about Donald Trump. Trump is a natural for a talk show.
There's been a lot of talk about that he'll have a talk show.
Oh, yes, they will pay him a fortune.
Or start his own network, too. I've heard some rumblings about that. He could do both, obviously.
He could do that. However, he may have to do it from offshore.
Will he go back to producing?
Like pirate radio.
Well, remember pirate radio.
Yeah, that was the Britain
clothesline.
Yes.
Remember the Trump brand of clothing?
Out beyond the 3-mile limit, broadcasting off of Washington, D.C.
The FCC.
Not a bad idea.
Otherwise, right?
Yes.
Don't want to be in violation of that, obviously. So,
yes.
Got to keep the FCC happy with everything we do in this business. So, as we move along, vaccine.
Well, the FCC, yes.
How about the
FCC? FCC, that has a lot to consider, as does like the acquisition of newspapers exponentially by hedge funds and real estate funds is really bad news for the journalism business.
Well, I have no background in journalism, these kinds of operations and companies, and this has been an issue for 30 years now, since the early 90s, about cross-ownership and dual ownership of AMs and FMs and newspapers in a singular market. But these were broadcast companies involved before in all of this. Now we have investment companies looking to make a buck no matter how they do it within this industry.
Slashing staff.
Right.
Slashing live talent. We have syndication. We have syndication as a result of all that cost slashing.
Right.
We no longer have local radio anymore.
Not much of it. That's where we do this locally, and there are not many doing what we do locally anymore.
You can listen to Rush Limbaugh coast to coast, driving west nonstop.
24 hours per day.
Yes.
But many of these stations that syndicate take a show from earlier in the day and they rerun it, replay it at night, sometimes all night. Some do locally in the tri-state area here and a little beyond. Stations I listen to take shows from the middle of the day.
I learned about the country.
Night 10, 10 p.m., 1 a.m. They're running the same shows from the day before, or maybe take another show from that host, best of show, so-called, and rerun that. And that's local radio today, unfortunately. Locally, how about vaccines and what they seem to be providing for us so far? I heard one report that the vaccines we have in this country so far are able to, with one injection before you get the second one, provide up to 90% protection within a couple of weeks. Is that seemingly accurate, or is that just a number that we hope is kind of accurate now?
Well, let's hope it's accurate. It would be good. However, what people don't realize is the vaccine will only be given to people who don't have COVID at all. It has no effect on COVID once you have it.
But you can get it and hopefully not get COVID again.
Yes,
right? Yeah.
Yes, but they have to get those needles out there stabbing. You know, they really do. I mean, there seems to be a real slowdown. I was speaking to someone today who attributes that to the break, where a lot of people left the hospitals, went on break, vacation, and all that. And of course, the distribution networks, we don't know how they're doing. They're way behind. So it's not getting out there to the hinterlands, let alone New York. Although we are getting it to a point, but I'll believe it when I get it.
So how do we get up to speed with this? We hear these reports about New York City and the surrounding area not getting the amounts of vaccines we thought we'd have now, not getting enough people.
Well, we're not. They haven't. They for manufacturing is not enough. Not enough vaccines fast enough. You got.
So do we need to impose that law that says the Military Imposition Act, I'll call it, basically to get us all, get industry moving privately and get more private companies involved and even the military involved more, and get us up to speed with production, number one, and with distribution, number two, and number three, getting enough arms stuck quickly enough to make this effective?
Well, it makes a lot of sense what you say. And this could have been done 6 months ago.
Yeah, could have been.
They had it then. They had it then. And it didn't happen. But now we have lost in 6 months of time because of all this arguing of whether the virus is that dangerous or not. Well, anybody, when you see 1,000 people a day test positive on Friday, that should be a wake-up call. And today I was expecting a really big news conference from Mr. Latter and haranguing the public. Look, you're destroying this county when you're not wearing a mask. Nada, nothing. Instead, we have a press conference about what Con Ed should do to improve its service. Well, you know, that was ill-timed. That Con Ed is no longer the problem. COVID is the problem. You're not going to have enough people to repair at this rate. I mean, I hate to be alarmist.
It'll get all of us eventually, I kind of think.
I hope not. But
I hope not too.
Yes,
but it might.
I don't want what this disease does to you.
And I agree. I have a good friend from high school. I just found out 2 days ago had it. I had no idea. He seems to be back to normal now. That's what he tells me. So we'll go with that. And I'm very glad about that. Glad he's okay. But I see too many people not specifically violating protocols, but doing things that maybe they should think twice about doing because it's getting close to violating protocols. For example, if a restaurant is open, that doesn't mean, to me, you have to go there and eat. We can continue to do what we've been doing at home for a while longer. Now, this comes from somebody who has spent a lifetime and a fortune eating at restaurants pretty much every day for decades until this lockdown happened. And I kind of got used to eating at home, helped me lose a good 35, 40 pounds throughout this 7, 8, 9 month, 10-month period. Now it is 10 months actually now. But that aside, I see too many people, we can go to the restaurant, indoor, outdoor, we can sit outside.
Just because you can do something,
all you need is one person going by doing something they shouldn't be doing, and you might be in an infirmary somewhere down with COVID-19.
Once you have it, you have to pray that they have the antibodies that they gave the president and his cronies, because there is a shortage of those. They're not getting out there. The hospitals, I was told today, have to request them, and then they get allocated them. So if you have a sudden surge and you don't of new infections, and you don't have enough of those, you have a big problem.
So you have to request the antibodies.
Yes.
They're not just sent as a matter of protocol, everyday protocol. No.
Yes. This is what I was told today.
Yeah.
I need more details.
Yeah. Why?
Somebody who follows the biotech industry told me this.
Any idea what the reasoning is for that? Is that to control supply or just to control us?
Well, they're emergency treatments, see. So you have to request the emergency treatment because they're not actually totally approved yet. I think.
Oh.
With
but
that
antibodies
thing that the president got,
something we need to help rid someone of COVID. So
yes.
I don't know. I'm not a medical guy, but I would think that's kind of not really an emergency from a paperwork standpoint. From a health standpoint, yeah. From a paperwork standpoint, no, it's something you do. Somebody needs penicillin, you give them a shot of penicillin. Same thing. From that,
they need to go with the Berlin airlift philosophy. You just get it out there. You go get it, put it in your vehicle, and you get it out to where the infections are the highest.
Right.
That's the only way you're going to get them better.
Are we?
If they already got it,
Are we in New York State adhering too much to protocols? I've heard something about that we worry too much right now about protocols in this state instead of getting a vaccine into someone's arm.
Yeah. Well, I would have to agree with you.
I see.
Just last week, the county was talking about this, that, well, the Westchester Medical Center is going to set up and organize the whole thing. Lots of luck with that. I mean, that is a huge bureaucracy. And I really have a problem because they should have figured that out 3 months ago.
Why is the state of Florida able to get seniors inoculated already? We can't get them yet, only frontline people. Making a big deal about how Israel is getting people inoculated quickly, especially seniors. And yet here in this state, we can't seem to do that yet.
Well, because it's a triage philosophy in Florida.
Which is?
Reverse triage philosophy. Because apparently DeSantis has decided, he's up for re-election. DeSantis has decided that he's going to get all the seniors, regardless of how old they are or how infirm they are, vaccinated. So they will love him. And remember, Florida is more than 50% wobbly. You know? Wobbly being the reference to older citizens driving around Florida because our cars wobble.
Mostly Northeasterners who transplanted down there.
Exactly. But I mean, this is what we understand. Yeah. That they are not following any kind of protocol in Florida. They're just throwing it in every loose arm there.
Walk up, throw your arm up, you get injected, right? You get inoculated.
Yeah, that's
right. The way we have to do it here in New York to get people inoculated, but we got to get the supply and that supply chain down first, I think, in order to get that done. John Bailey is the publisher and executive editor of White Plains CitizenNet Reporter, whiteplainscitizennetreporter.com here on Westchester Talk Radio. I'm John Marino, produced by Sharc Creative, made possible by our good friends at Entergy, the Indian Point Energy Center, supporting our communities through April of this year, 2021. Wartburg Healthcare and Rehabilitation in Mount Vernon, Park Sterling Realty in Bronxville, and Michael Labriola Landscape Design and Construction in Armonk. John Bailey, the 2021 budget in Westchester. You have been looking this thing over with a fine-tooth comb. You've been going through it for a while now. As you push that comb through, is that comb getting stuck in some tough hairs to get through still?
Well, I was really shocked that that budget was not cut more. And, but the big shock was that they took 80 million of COVID money and they used it to shore up their deficit in a little sleight of hand, reminiscent of the O'Rourke sleight of hand back in 1993 when he took money that was coming in January and threw it into December. But 1993, you can look it up, and it was the O'Rourke shift of funds.
Okay, but aren't budgets shiftable to move money around as you see how you need it today, as you need it right now, as you need that money right now? And then we can always go back and shift around next time for something else.
Well, of course they do that. However, this was COVID aid from the federal government. And they came up with the fact that we only could identify use for 20 million of it. Now, so we're going to take the rest, put it into our fund balance, and then use our fund balance to pay off the deficit.
Okay, now is COVID money earmarked for COVID use only? Or is there an escape hatch there that you say here, I guess, the county used?
Yeah, it's fungible. It's fungible funds. They put it in the reserve fund, but then take what's in the reserve fund to pay off the deficit. And
kind of like when you went to grammar school and your father gave you a quarter before you left for school that day and said, that's for lunch. And you took that quarter and maybe flipped it on the street, heads or tails with somebody, and you lost it.
Yes, that's right. The county budget is run just like high school money that your mother gives you. That's like an excellent analogy. Right? Hey, All you need to do budgets anytime is baseball statistics. That's all you need. There is no mumbo jumbo to it. But what happens is you have people that create budgets with wishful thinking. That's what they did. They overestimated sales tax, not overestimated. They threw a dart when they figured that out. And that really, and then COVID complicated matters. But my in Westchester that are struggling to stay afloat, restaurants. How about giving them the money from COVID? How about that? We didn't hear about that.
Or other businesses besides restaurants.
Hairdressers, beauty salons,
right?
Theater owners, and what are they doing? They're going to give millions to the theater owner chains. It's one of the richest organizations, the biggest monopolies in the country are theater owners.
All right, now I'm going to throw this at you.
And Broadway theaters. My God, crazy stuff.
I'm going to throw this at you. Isn't settling and satisfying the county debt an important thing for future borrowing and lending and how we can manipulate and use money in the future?
Well, that's what they're doing with Playland. They are going to spend $160 million taxpayer money to improve the infrastructure because they settled with the Standard Amusements to do that. And Standard Amusements is going to invest $35 million and then give us more money over the course of their agreement. However, my feeling was we could have come to this. It was wrong to sue them with a contract in place because a contract is a contract. I remember the old Our Gang episode where Alfalfa signed a contract and the guy was dangling a contract in front of Alfalfa, but you have a contract. Remember that?
Right.
I do.
It's funny.
And it's true. And I don't care what lawyer tells you, oh, this is grounds. You know, you can really contest this. It's a crapshoot. So what happens? He takes them to court because Standard declares bankruptcy. Now the question is about this agreement, John, is if Standard Amusements is bankrupt, how can they invest $35 million?
That's a good question.
Isn't it? Nobody asks good questions anymore. Nobody has asked Price, or is it Fisher? No, it was Fisher, Nick Fisher, I think.
Fisher Price?
Yeah, yes. But anyway, nobody asked him during that phone call, well, where are you getting the $35 million if you're bankrupt?
Bankrupt, yeah. After restructuring, maybe, who knows?
Yes. Restructuring. He doesn't even have somebody to run Playland anymore because the consultant left because he said, this is part of the mess.
Has Playland become, despite all the attention given to it the last almost a decade now, has it really become sort of a back burner issue? It's sort of like, yeah, we know Playland's important and we want to keep it in
a lot of backboner is backboner.
Like that we want to do something about it, but nothing ever gets done. If you wanted to get
it gets pushed off, John. The idea of politicians everywhere is to kick the can down the road and say, we're having a task force, we're having a study group. And then you do that and they report like this Con Ed thing that they talked about today about all the things Con Ed should do. You know, please, Con Ed just knocked out that Christmas outage in record time. It was stunning. And Chris Burdick and Paul Feiner complimented them, unheard of. So therefore, have they fixed it? Has the county had any discussions with Con Ed about all these things? It's show and tell. Look what we're doing for you.
Maybe Rye Playland has become a decade-long listening tour. You remember listening tours, don't you? I know you do.
Pardon, I didn't catch that. What?
Yeah, you remember the old listening tours, don't you?
Yes, the listening
The
tours.
listening tour.
Now they're
Get me along
conversations.
listening
They
tour.
used to be listening tours. Now they're conversations.
Now they're right, exactly. Now they're we have to have this conversation.
And
Amazing
then
how the
there
marketing
were the
works.
town meetings, all these euphemisms.
Transparency. How about, yeah, okay.
Transparency.
Listening tour.
Listen,
Conversation.
yeah.
Yeah.
Transparency. When somebody says we are going to be completely transparent, watch out.
Proof? Yeah, oh yeah. Because
Watch out.
that means they're hiding the truth when they say that. So,
Yeah.
By the
They
way,
always do.
there you go, going around talking our gang and Little Rascals episodes. I've been doing the same thing with people lately, too. I walked up to somebody the other day and I said, I don't want to have my picture taken. You remember that one, right? With Little Spanky, 1935, a photographer. Yeah.
Yes.
I won't go into that one any further. I just walked up to somebody the other day and said, I don't want to have my picture taken.
Yes, I learned all about being exploited watching the R Gang comedies. But
oh boy.
Unfortunately,
great shows never go away, no doubt about it.
No. But on Playland, though, this is a problem because I was down there just the other day, and it's really old, John. They really let
there's
it
no
go.
question. It's old. It has to be fixed.
Yes, it's really been. It's really something that is going to take a lot of money to fix, and the county says that they will have approval of anything that Standard Amusements wants to do. However, Standard Amusements has to get people to come to that park from September to May. Mm-hmm. And the way they do that, they're going to, and things like that. That's what they wanted to do. They wanted to put a catering place there so they could have big affairs. But that's now, with COVID, they're not going to be able to do that anytime soon.
So how do we get people there between September and May?
Well, that's the county's problem. They have to run it next year. And really, they did a lot of promotion work, but we never did get what the final attendance was, but it did not approach the last year when Standard Amusements decided they would try and take it over. It's on the agreement.
I remember back in the early 90s in my WFAS White Plains radio days, back in the 90s, and I'm talking from most of the 90s, we did a lot of live events at Playland. Many a weekend I spent there, and it was old then. It was old then. It's gotten a lot older in these past 25, 30 years since then. And I just wonder what can be done with that to get this kind of, it doesn't have to look brand spanking new, but get back to looking to or something like the kind of family attraction that you want to bring the kids to every weekend, if you could.
Yeah, we have the Children's Museum, which is one of the great boondoggles the county has done all time. There is nothing new in that place. The county spent $10 million for them fixing it up. That hasn't been paid back. I'm really upset about that because now it really needs something for that, and they just haven't put the stuff in there that they said they were going to do. Mm-hmm. But that's what's $10 million. It's just.
All right, so let's look at it this way now, too. And I hate to throw a monkey wrench into all this, too, because you've thrown a few in. It's 2021, it's COVID, and it doesn't right Playland to get further pushed back onto the back burner as a result.
Well, look, Standard Amusements now has to find investors to put in their $35 million. How are they going to find them? How are they going to make the deals to bring investors in to put up the attractions that'll liven up the place?
Very low interest rates, thanks to COVID.
Yeah. Well, yeah. I mean, the county needs a low interest rate to drop $160 million on that. That is not a white elephant. That is a red elephant.
Red elephant.
Yes. And unfortunately, the best thing they can do with that is to sell it, but Rye will flip out if you do that.
All right, so the city of Rye would have a problem, though.
Sorry about that. Occasionally somebody calls me with
Oh, it happens here too.
yes, yes, exactly.
So the city of Rye would have a problem if the county tried to do something like that then.
Well, unfortunately, anybody buying that would want to put up a lot of housing. Remember when Trump wanted to fix up David's Island in New
Yes.
Rochelle?
Yep.
I thought that was a great idea. That's when he had a good reputation. If he ever did, that's when he was looked upon as a savior. But they didn't want to do it. And what has New Rochelle got? They've got the same decrepit waterfront they've always had, these old clubs, from the past, whereas they could have had a destination place had Trump reworked that island.
Now, for Rye Playland, wouldn't new development be good? Rye Playland, put in housing, put in retail, put in whatever you want to put in.
Yes, but I don't know what you do there, but it's become much harder since this lawsuit against Standard Amusements. It was really not smart. And my father once told me, never go to court because you never know what's going to happen. And I believed in that. Every time I've gotten into a legal problem with contractors, I just get a lawyer, I negotiate, and I settle it. Because, homeowner versus contractor, who wins? The contractor. Mm-hmm. Particularly if they go jury.
Well, let's hope 2021 turns out to be a year in which Rye Playland and that whole situation turns around for the better, no matter what direction it goes in, as long as it's a better direction for Playland, for the city of Rye, and for the people who go to Playland, and for all of Westchester County and all.
Safely, that is the big problem. If we don't get COVID stopped in its tracks by June, back to the levels of where they were, and it's easy to see where you have to get.
Right.
That huge curve, which is easily readable. There's no reason to wonder where you are in COVID because you can follow it day by day back the entire.
I'm thinking another 6 to 9 months from the things I see and hear. June, I think, was the original game plan, but since things have gotten backed up a bit, I wouldn't be surprised if it's not until next fall, until maybe the holidays next year, we are pretty much back to normal. We'll see.
Just in time for wave 3.
Wave 3, yeah, which
yes,
I worry about.
Wave 3. If we don't vaccinate everybody in a timely manner,
we'll have
and tourism is a big factor. I mean, I don't think people are going to be coming to America for about 6 to 7 months.
No, most of this year, unless we get this under control, no doubt about that. Manhattan will continue to be a wasteland. Our tri-state area, from a tourism standpoint, where a lot of people come to Manhattan and then branch out across New York into Westchester, Long Island, New Jersey, Connecticut. They go see the sites, and that's just going to be on hiatus until we get things under control. John Bailey is the executive editor and publisher of White Plains CItizeNet reporter. White Plains.
Yes, one of the few news people who can count and multiply and take percentages.
That he can
learn something.
Do a whole lot more too, and we love the way John always dresses too. That's always a standout. John? Congressman Sean Patrick Maloney represents northern Westchester and the lower Hudson Valley, has worked with the county and worked with Congress to make this happen. Congress is now okayed. They've approved a resolution, approved a bill permanently banning oil barge anchorages along the lower portion of the Hudson River, which takes me back to the sloop days of the 1980s and when we first got together to work to clean up the Hudson River. I think we need a song from Pete Seeger here now.
Yes, the little box guy.
This is obviously Congress working with the county, Sean Patrick Maloney, I think, working on behalf of the county to make us more green.
Well, how far up the Hudson can you anchor those barges?
I think
have to stop at the city limit.
County, you may be able to do that, but we're talking the lower Hudson Valley area. Now, I wonder if this will eventually include all of the Hudson, which I think it should. Maybe it does, and it's not there. Maybe it's in the fine print, but at least for our area. And this lower part of the Hudson Valley includes Westchester, Rockland, Putnam, Dutchess, Orange, Ulster counties. This area we're talking here where this would apply, which is Sean Patrick Maloney's area that he represents, and a bit beyond too, a bit beyond his representative area, but it's all part of the lower Hudson Valley. Good deal, good thing for us.
I think it's a good indication that at least somebody is able to convince Congress to do something environmentally constructive. Prevents oil spills, prevents pollution, and I have no problem with that. Same thing, I support Westchester Power because it saves me money with its new green rate. Also, I learned from Con Ed that they are the #1 producer of solar power.
Con Ed?
And yes, Con Ed. Didn't know that, did you? Neither did I. I mean, a lot of things I don't know. Why? Because nobody tells you.
Well, we learn day by day.
Yes, that's right.
This is a good thing if Con Ed is #1 in this area now. That shows whether or not they kind of act this way publicly, that they see the direction things are going in and they want to get in on something that's supposed to be good.
Absolutely.
That's good.
Has new management in place who are very environmentally sensitive, and I think it's going to be a change for the better. And whether or not this will translate to less price increases on a regular basis remains to be seen. But
yeah, that's a key issue here. We will see, I think, soon what direction this goes in. Westchester County breaking ground on the Compost and Environmental Education Center in Valhalla, another step in the green direction.
Yes, well, I mean, garbage and sewage is a big county problem. In fact, we haven't heard anything about the Kaplowitz sewer plan that he was supposed to be working on. Remember that?
Yes.
Yes, he was Mr. Kaplowitz was going to get together with all the towns and figure out what had to be done. And we expect a news conference on that shortly, don't you?
I hope so.
Yes, sir. I think so.
In light of these two developments here with Congressman Maloney and with what the county is doing, breaking ground on the composting center, the Kaplowitz initiative would be something that would be another good step in the right direction, what we hear about that. But as we continue to go green, there's an issue over in White Plains, a couple of developmental issues that as we enter the new year, they just go on forever. The so many years old now, French-American School of New York Fastney situation in White Plains. And you have the other situation, I believe, on Mamaroneck Avenue, was it?
Yes, the White Plains Mall, which they have not started that. Now, the reason that is an issue is because the DMV has not moved out of it. So
DMV has to go first.
Yes,
I've heard that. Yeah. So why is DMV not gone?
Well, they were going to move it over to a building on Barker Avenue, but the building wanted to fire some SIEU workers and this created a bad situation. The county legislators came out in favor of obeying the Displaced Workers Act, blah, blah, blah. And what happened was the DMV decided not to move. So that is what basically delayed the project.
All right, so if DMV is supposed to move as a result of the project, as part of the deal, how could they not move? How can they say, we're not going anywhere? We're staying.
You got to find a place. They have to find a place centrally located.
All right. That shouldn't be too tough to do.
One would think, but unfortunately, nowadays, they have to get financing for this project. And this was the Keystone project that was first introduced when White Plains was going to. And we still do not know what the proposals are for the 4 city-owned properties right next to the tracks of Metro North where the station is. And they're going to develop those, but we have not heard what the proposals are that they've received.
So would you say that
for a couple of years?
Would you say the White Plains rebuild is not on schedule, not going according to plan?
No, it's not. But when you come right down to it, it's probably fortunate, because if they had built it on time, those apartments would not be filling up because of the COVID. Nobody would be moving into those apartments.
So from that standpoint, I'm not going to use the term a blessing in disguise, but this is something that for the city of White Plains, better off it is the way it is right now, and we'll see how
right now, the landlords are still on the new buildings, which have opened up, the 55 Bank Street, and the huge new complex going on at, I think, the Broadstone at Mamaroneck and Post Road, right in the corner where a whole bunch of stores used to be.
Yeah, it was just
that is an amazingly
driving by.
Large project. It absolutely destroys the view northbound, which is what used to be dominated by the Ritz-Carlton Towers there.
Right.
And you can't see that. The building is so high on East Post Road. However, when that opens, you wonder what the rents are going to be. They're going to have lots of different size apartments, and will they be able to keep the rents up at the present levels, or will they have to lower them? I mean, there's all sorts of questions brought on by building these not in a timely fashion, and the market changes so rapidly today that the plans you made 2 to 3 years ago, and if you can't get them up within 2 years, you're screwed. And that's what's happened. The banks haven't been getting the financing. The banks really wonder about that, so they're not giving them the financing. And every developer who hasn't started developing uses this excuse. But it's a good, but they don't. That's the whole thing today. It used to be you came in with the developer, you had the money to build something before you started. Now that is not the case. They get the site plan approved. City says good, and then you have to extend the site plan year after year after year because they get stalled by the economy. Because of the slow city process of approval.
I'm of the train of thought that says that when it comes to rents, if COVID is still hanging around, those rents are going to be lower. And if COVID seems to be on the outswing, seemingly on the way out, and people are not succumbing to COVID, the vaccines are working, then those rents can be jacked up to current rates again or even higher.
Creating more of a housing problem.
Yeah, it would at that point.
So. Yes, it would. Because the developer does you no favors, ever.
We've seen French American School of New York, FASTNY. Where are we with that in 2021?
Well, it's basically like
same place as 2011.
One of those places in the old West that people fight over, but nothing happens.
Nothing happens. Yeah.
And in fact, we now wait a court date to examine it at the court of the appellate court in Brooklyn. Whether or not they're ever going to get one this year is because the courts are kind of stalled out. Now I'm told the appellate court is hearing stuff, but unless they what? Go ahead.
What year did FASTNY begin this whole issue?
2010.
2010. Like I said, it's still the same as it was in 2011. Yeah.
Right. This is
we're into
year 10.
12 with FASTNY, I think, basically.
Yes, year 10. But FASTNY is now, their enrollment is really down. I don't think they're interested in building it. But on the other hand, they are so stuck with this litigation factor, that the Gedney Association brought, that you don't know where this is going to end up, no matter how it is sliced. The decision will be important because it'll decide whether or not a covenant in 1925 can determine what you do in 2021.
Will the Biden presidency, which begins in a few weeks, be a good thing for Westchester and this entire tri-state area?
Well, it has a potential to be a good thing for everybody. but across the country. But that's all it is potential. It's not what he says, it's what he will do or is able to do. And Mr. Rolandi, who I interviewed, who wrote me a commentary on Biden going ahead, he says he thinks that the Georgia vote tomorrow will split. We'll get one Republican and one Democratic senator.
I do. That's what I think.
Yeah. And he feels, though, that Biden can work with that because he has a good working relationship with McConnell built up over the years, other big kahunas in the Senate. And I just hope he's right. But I mean, to take things as far as they want it. Mm-hmm. But I mean, we have to salute, what's her name? The education secretary.
Betsy DeVos?
Yes, she is the only secretary in the cabinet, along with Mr. Carson, who has served the full 4 years. The only one. So
I'm always intrigued, and I don't want to say perplexed, but interested how people move in and out of cabinet positions, especially if the president gets reelected. Well, I did it 4 years. I don't want to do it anymore. Like, what drives all these people to leave the kind of opportunity that people work a lifetime for? They do it for a few years and say, I don't want to do it anymore. Not for me.
Well, they can make more money as a lobbyist.
Yes.
That's what it is. A cabinet position gets you on talk shows. It enhances your brand.
Right. It gives you exposure.
And that's what politics is all about, enhancing your brand, defending it at all costs, lying to protect it, and not doing what should be done if people don't like what should be done.
Brand is another one of those words, like transparency to me.
Yes, another fantastic legacy of the last 10 years. It's like branding. Being mindful is another one.
Everybody's got a brand, everything.
Yes. I mean, the school districts are all mindful.
Right. See, to me, this is a brand, waxed paper. ShopRite brand, waxed paper. That's a brand. Something tangible that you can buy in a store. So, there you go.
Absolutely, but branding is a big thing.
That's what it's all about nowadays. So, John Bailey, your predictions for 2021 in Westchester and beyond.
I think that the county executive is going to come under heavy fire for the spread of COVID through Westchester County because there's been no effort to enforce mask and gathering
people
violations. No effort at all. I mean, Mount Vernon did, and they stopped from getting orange in a hurry. But I don't know exactly what they did and how they did it. They fined restaurants and also warned people about masks. But that's the only city that I've heard of that actually does anything. Oh, you should wear a mask. No, what you do is $25 for not wearing a mask. You either have to leave the park now, but if you stay and I see you with a mask, without a mask again while you're here, it's another $25.
I think it should be 50 off the bat, honestly, just to make an impression.
25 is a good warning. It's a good warning.
Yeah,
I mean,
that makes
25 on a White Plains parking ticket, and it shames you. But I mean, I don't see why fines weren't done because it's now killing us.
Right. It's one thing to impose a standard, a so-called directive, guidance, a law, but you have to enforce that to make it work. And like last time when we spoke, I told you about that area along the Sound Shore, an affluent area where I was one day, and a good 80% of the people did not have their masks on. I wanted to stand in the middle of Route 1 and Boston Post Road and just say, masks? Anyone? Mask? Oh, mask like this? No?
And I have not seen a lot of television footage of places around Westchester showing the lack of masking.
Right.
This is a journalistic disgrace because if it says what, the only reason you have such a spread is because people are not being safe. And the bars, please. The restaurant, they're not going to have any bars.
There won't be a restaurant industry or a bar industry.
No, they're really hurting.
Yeah.
Hence to my point, use the COVID money that they blew to help the restaurants, the stylists, the clubs. But I mean, nobody really wants to help those low life industries. You know?
What else do you see happening this year?
Not low life, bad choice of words. Those small little businesses. They talk a good game, but they don't.
Yeah. Smaller businesses, which drive the local and the state and the national economy.
Yeah, you don't have a downtown. You have a ghost town downtown. You got no town.
Right, you have no town. You are done at that point. What else do you see happening this year?
What else is happening? Well, at the Common Council meeting tonight, people can't come. They have closed it. Yes, because of COVID. Right. They're just doing it by Zoom. There's very little on the agenda. There's no public hearing. I mean, things come to a stop when you have to do that.
Why, though? Can't you still do on Zoom a meeting like this meeting you're going to have tonight in White Plains, the Common Council meeting? Do everything that needs to be done. I'm a member of groups and organizations locally in Westchester. We do Zoom meetings. We do what we are supposed to do, I think.
Right.
We'll have discussions, differences of opinion. We get into it.
You are correct. You have to realize, though, that governments don't want to make a decision on controversial matters. So it gets pushed out and out and out. And that was part of what happened with FAST.
All right. So is this a way just for government, for the Common Council to intentionally back off and make it look unintentional? You know, we got COVID going on. We're not
safe.
Place. We can't do everything.
It's not safe. City Hall is not a safe place.
Yeah. Okay.
That's right.
All right. And it's good. Everybody should be
That's right.
We've spoken of, no doubt, and do it this way until it's safe to do it the old way we did it before. I think what we're doing now is going to become a part of, a staple of the way we do things in the future. Now, another term we've developed in the last decade, it will be part of the new normal, but that doesn't mean we can't get anything done now.
Now, you asked about predictions. Cities and towns going to have big budget problems. They're going to have to raise taxes to make up their deficits from the sales tax. White Plains is looking at a 14% drop in sales taxes.
Wow.
14% through the first 5 months. We await the January figures to see what we made in December, and we hope that it comes back a little. But of course, this is a big problem, because if you're down that much, you're going to have about a 9% tax increase to make up the $3 million you're down.
Right. Our holiday season, shopping-wise, retail-wise, this year had been going down for a long time due to the internet. But because of the pandemic, not anything like the last number of years. Internet-wise, shopping way up this year as we expected, but retail down a good deal, it seems like. So we'll see what those numbers are, how much municipalities and localities and the county itself has taken in through the holiday season of 2020.
Well, the county absolutely way down. They made more money than last year, but because they can't count when they do budgets, they are way no. So they had to use the COVID money.
Right.
But no, simply it's a matter of they cannot count. They said they'd get a 27% sales tax increase. We had never gotten more than a 5% raise in sales taxes in 25 years.
John Bailey, let's see what develops here in 2021. We'll talk again soon in a few weeks, as we normally do.
Right, but watch out for your taxes, folks, and they got to start cutting budgets now for the rest of the 6 months.
Start cutting home budgets and save that extra money for taxes, or maybe when you get your tax return, well, a lot of that's going to
invest heavily in the Glenlivet.
A lot of that's going to go to new taxes, I guess. So, John Bailey, Always a pleasure, John Bailey, the publisher and executive editor of White Plains Citizen Net Reporter, White Plains Citizen Net Reporter.com. John, I thank you as always. We'll talk to you soon.
All right, and don't get too nervous, everybody. It'll all work out.
It'll all work out. Happy all the best in 2021, John. Westchester Talk Radio, WestchesterTalkRadio.com. I'm John Marino. We are produced by Sharc Creative and made possible by our good friends at Entergy, the Indian Point Energy Center, supporting our communities through April of 2021. Lipolis Electric, don't be left in the dark to get Lipolis, Hightower, Westchester. Managing your wealth through a fiduciary standard. White Plains Hospital, thank you, all of our frontline heroes at White Plains Hospital, handling the COVID-19 pandemic. Wartburg Healthcare and Rehabilitation in Mount Vernon. Park Sterling Realty in Bronxville, and Michael Labriola Landscape Design and Construction in Armonk. Catch all of our Westchester, Fairfield County, Putnam, and Dutchess Talk Radio programming on our YouTube channel, Sharc Creative YouTube.